Shalom, real quick, giving all praise to Yahweh, Shai B'Hashem, Rakakwadash, Shalom to the 144,000, and the rest of the elect out there. Shalom to you all. Anyway, I'm going to make this quick, super quick, and the title of this video is What Say You? Or What Say Y'all? Instead of saying what say you all, is what say y'all. So this is, and I'm going to let you listen to it. Israelites are the strangers. God's talking about Leviticus 25:35, which I didn't go to. Christians don't know #Bible, put up by Captain Tazariak. So I'm at the 55-minute part, and I'm just going to play, I don't know, maybe up until this point here. And, you know, this is really a video putting out there so y'all can respond. Have a little fun with this thing. Is Captain Tazariak correct? So let's go.
You said, then he came to a question where he asked you, were there strangers in the wilderness with us? When we were in Egypt, he asked you, were the strangers Israelites?
Right.
And you said there was no other. Yes, you said yes, the strangers was Israelites. And you also said that there was no mixed multitude that went out with Israel out of the land of Egypt.
No, there was a mixed multitude that went out with the children of Israel, but that mixed multitude was men, women, and children that was not a part of the military of Israel.
Let's rewind that back.
Multitude that went out with Israel out of the land of Egypt.
No, there was a mixed multitude that went out with the children of Israel, but that mixed multitude was men, women, and children that was not a part of the military of Israel.
Say it again.
That went out Israel out of the land of Egypt.
No, there was a mixed multitude that went out with the children of Israel, but that mixed multitude was men, women, and children that was not a part of the military of Israel.
So the mixed multitude, according to what he just said, I'll let you hear it 3 times. You can rewind it back, bring it back 4, 5, 6 to 100 times. Okay, that's what he said. That the strangers of the mixed multitude were actually, in fact, Israelites. So what say y'all? Let's listen to a little bit more.
So when you read Exodus 12 and...
Yeah, 12 and 37 you was referring to.
Yeah, it says, so when you read 12 and 37, it says, and the children of Israel journeyed from Ramsey to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men. So that 600,000 only represents the men. That's the army, right? And it says, besides children. And verse 38 says, and a mixed multitude went also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle. That's the men, women, and children that are not the 600,000 men on foot.
There had to be more mixed multitude than the actual army of the Israelite army. You know, if you have a man, for every man you have at least one woman and a bunch of children, handful of children, or 2 or 3 women or 5 women and children. So according to what he just said, the mixed multitude are actually the Israelites, the men, women, and children that were not a part of the army. So you had more mixed multitude than you had the actual army, a small number of men. I want to go bring out some precepts, numbers I really wanted to go into, which I'm not going to do. I'm just putting it out there so y'all can take it and do what y'all want with it, all right? And this was never taught back at One West, the original One West, just so you know. So what say y'all? With that, shalom, on to the next.
All right, shalom. First and foremost, before we dive to this lesson, giving all praises and all honor and all glory to Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, B'Hashem Chakadash. Double honors to great millstone elder apostles which teach and rule well. Peace and salutations to the whole elect that scatter abroad like the other nations. Shalom, and a shalom to the sincere Akim that's out there making a body, a living sacrifice, going out there in the highways and byways and hedges, proclaiming his truth and teaching 100% truth. Keep doing so to those may be. Shalom. And a shalom to the sincere Aquathium that's out there resting, their husband being a pillar of rest. Keep doing so to those may be. Shalom. All right, Yahweh, as being the Heavenly Father, which the world ignorantly calls him God, which his name means in ancient Paleo-Hebrew. He is to exist. He is the Ancient of Days. Bahashem, man, in the name of Yahweh Shai, the only begotten Son of the Heavenly Father, which the world ignorantly calls him Jesus the Christ, which his name means in ancient Paleo-Hebrew. He is to save, or he is to deliver. Who is he coming back to save and to deliver? The children of Israel only, and the Ruach HaKodesh being the Holy Spirit, or Spirit Holy. All right, those are the true biblical names of the Heavenly Father and his only begotten Son, and those names should be uplifted and proclaimed, especially during these times that we're living in. Okay, this brother Karatazar from the St. Louis GMS Lions Camp come back again with another video through the power and spirit of Yahweh Shai. Shai, and today's video is going over lesson over the mixed multitude, and as you heard, and that was Elder Apostle Tahar's channel. Subscribe, be well, Elder, be well fed with this truth, and basically, he left it up in the air, and basically for us to go into, and basically disprove what Captain Tazariak was basically saying, that the mixed multitude was, the women and children, that men, women, and children that wasn't part of the military. When you go into the actual scriptures, you would then see like that mixed multitude was actual heathens, okay? Because the thing is, if those were Israelites that wasn't part of the military, then why would we need to have laws, upon the strangers that's dwelling upon us, which are actual heathens, okay? Because, hey, when we left out of Egypt, there were, heathens with us that left with us when we left out of Egypt, okay? And, just doing some, looking up and researching and stuff like that. Christ the Elder's already been into it, and just going into it and revisiting, and I basically asked, where were the Israelites in Egypt, okay? It says the Israelites reside in the land of Goshen, located in the eastern Nile Delta of Egypt. They settled there following Joseph's invitation and continued to live there until the Exodus. Through the exact location of Goshen is uncertain. Evidence suggests that during the enslavement, they were forced to build the cities of Pithom, and Ramses, okay? So then, when they look up, where were the Israelites in Egypt and the mixed multitude that left, okay? And basically it says the Israelites lived as slaves in Egypt, but were located in the region of Ramses. When they left, they began their journey from Ramses to Succoth, and location mentioned in the book of Exodus. The mixed multitude was diverse, a group of non-Israelites, including Egyptians and other foreigners who joined the Exodus either for ideology reasons or to escape their former lives in Egypt, right? But the thing is, as you see here, there was a mixed multitude of actual heathens that joined and followed us, during the time of Exodus. That's what that mixed multitude is, okay? And it says, the partial point, the Exodus began from Ramses to journey to Succoth. The mixed multitude, the group included a variety of people such as Egyptians or other foreigners, based in Hamitic nations or whatever other foreigners, okay? Because, when we, was leaving, of course, you had heathen nations following us. And then also when we took over certain places, those nations became strangers underneath us because they had to follow our law, statute, and commandments, and we were separate from them. They had to follow our law, statute, and commandments because we was ruling over them, okay? So what Captain Tazariak is saying is very wrong, and that's not in the scriptures, okay? That's not talking about the military of Israel. He's going off on it, okay? So, as we got right here, the Israelites left out of Ramses, went to Succoth, and crossed over the Red Sea, reached continued to Mount Sinai, but there was a mixed multitude amongst Israel. Because when you go into we're going to go into the scriptures, okay, Lord's willing, this edifying, okay. This is book of Exodus 12 and verse 38, all right. So, and then, the reason why those heathens were following after us, because they've seen the plagues that was coming upon, Egypt, especially the firstborn of everything being put to death, okay? So this is Exodus chapter 12, and I'm going to start at verse 31. And it says, I'm going to start at verse 29. And it came to pass that at midnight Yahweh smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, and he and all his servants and all the Egyptians that were there was a great city in Egypt, for there was not a house that was not one dead. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, Rise and get you forth from among my people, but both ye and the children of Israel, and go serve Yahweh. And ye have said also, take your flocks and your herds, and as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urging upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, We be all dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, and their netting troughs being bound up in their clothes and upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and a raiment. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, and the 600,000 footmen that were men beside children, and a mixed multitude went up also with them, flocks and herds, even much cattle. Okay, and this mixed multitude is actual heathens. Okay, because I'm gonna go into the blue letter real quick, and I'm gonna just see something real quick. And right here, this is the AMP, the Amplified Version, in verse 38. A mixed multitude of non-Israelites from foreign nations also went with them, all along with both flocks and herds, a very large number of livestock. Okay, so that right there just proves that the mixed multitude were actual non-Israelites that took and followed after the Israelites. Okay, because they seen the plagues and they were just like, shit, we gotta get the hell up out of here too. We're gonna follow Yah. Okay, but we're gonna continue on this, because if these were Israelites, why was it then laws given to Moses and Aaron about the strangers? Okay, but let's go into the blue letter real quick. Matter of fact, we're going to read that, all right? Exodus 12 and verse 43. And it says the ordinance says of the Passover, basically order for the Passover. And Yahweh said unto Moses and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. Basically, heathen nations, okay? But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. Okay? So the point is, a lot of the heathens wasn't circumcised. Okay? So that's why the Lord said they cannot eat of the Passover. They not circumcised. All right. Verse 46, in one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth out of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shalt thou break a bone thereof, and all the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, talking about an actual heathen, okay, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. Okay, so the thing is, if these were Israelites, why did the Lord give, ordinances to keep? Why did the Lord tell Moses and Aaron on the things to do if there were strangers or actual heathen, the non-Israelites, taking after your customs? Okay, that wouldn't make no sense that the Lord would give an ordinance, among the mixed, to Moses and Aaron concerning the mixed multitude that followed them. All right. So let's go into the blue letter here. All right. Blue letter Bible. And we're going to go into that Exodus 12, and you're going to read what the commentary says. Okay. Exodus 12 and verse 38 here. Commentary, David Guzik. Okay, so when you look at this in verse 38, yeah, where is it at? The mixed multitude says, now all the 600,000 were Israelites. Many Egyptians, perhaps other foreigners, went with them because the power of Israel demonstrated that he was more powerful than the gods of the Egyptians. You see that? And it says the Hebrew word says swarm, from the same root as used in 8:21 to describe the plague of the gadflies. Okay, so as you see here, those not all of those were Israelites. Um those were actual non-Israelites, man, heathens. Okay, and it says many Egyptians and other foreigner nations. Okay, so now when you go into um no foreigner shall eat. It says to share in the Passover, one had to make themselves part of the people of Israel, receiving the covenant of circumcision and taking the Passover were all part of the same package. And in one house shall be eaten. Passover is commemorated on a family level. Each household celebrated it. Okay, so as you see, you know, in order for a foreigner to be able to take part in the Passover, they have to be circumcised. They and their whole household have to be circumcised. Okay, so that's why we do go into these things because as you see here, that mixed multitude was actually talking about strangers. Now, are there points in the scriptures where your own fellow brethren will be called a stranger? Yes, you go into the book of Leviticus. I believe it's Leviticus 12, okay? Because the only time that would happen, and it's surrounded by the year of Jubilee where all debts are forgiven, because hey, if you have a brethren that is down and out, down on his luck, as they say in the world, and he has no heritage, then he basically considered a stranger, okay? I'm trying to find it, okay? Yeah, it says of a poor countryman, and it says if thy brother be waxing poor, or fallen in a day with thee, then shalt thou relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Right, so let's go into the commentary real quick. All right, so what was that, verse 35? All right, going into it. Says, if one of your brethren becomes poor, says this command specifically prohibit making money from misfortune or of a poor brother instead of making profit from misery of a poor brother. The command was simple: you shall help him. Take no usury of him from him, but fear Yahweh, that your brother may live with you. Yahweh made a similar command in Luke 6:34 when he asked, what credit could it be to us if we give to help, or only those who we know can help us back? So the point is, that stranger right here is speaking about actual brother, okay? But when it comes to those strangers, that's not talking about, that these strangers here are talking about actual heathens. But when you got points in the scriptures where, there's an Israelite that doesn't have his heritage or whatnot and stuff like that, he lost everything, he then becomes a stranger in his own land, or becomes a stranger within the land because he has no heritage, but he's still an Israelite. He's still a fellow brethren. All right. So, yeah, man. So it's going to Nehemiah 13:3, just showing you that, yeah, there are mixed multitudes amongst Jake, but the Lord always put a difference, put a division between us, because there's a reason why the Lord did that. Because if, when you go into the book of Numbers, I believe it's 11, where that mixed multitude started murmuring, Jake started listening and was like, yeah, they right, man. The Lord brought us out here. Usually that's why the Lord kept us separated, because Jake can get easily influenced by these other nations. That's why the Lord say, learn not the ways of the heathen. All right. This is Nehemiah chapter 3. in verse 3. We'll start at verse 1. It says, on that day they read in the book of book of Moses in the audience of the people. Therein was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of Yahweh forever, because they met not the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Baalam against them, that he should curse them, howbeit our power turned the curse into a blessing. Now it came to pass, when they heard the law, they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude, and that mixed multitude is what? 9 Israelites. Okay, there's 9 Israelites. So when you go into this one, all right, it says, when the Jews heard the law, they separated from Israel all who were of a foreign descent. Basically 9 Israelites. And the reason why Nehemiah was so heavy upon Jake, marrying your sons off, your daughters going into their sons, is because your heart can get turned away from the Lord. Now, if a man sees a woman, that's within our law. If a man sees a woman that is fair and beautiful and he want to go into her, then she can become his concubine. But this is around the time where Nehemiah is trying to rebuild the temple, and Jake started BSing and getting with these nations, and then we trying to get back, to how we was at first. That's why Nehemiah was hard on Jake, because we was trying to rebuild our temple, okay, without these heathens being around, okay. But the point is, the mixed multitude here is 9 Israelites, okay. So yeah, man. So the point is, the Captain Zarya going off on that, saying that was talking about the military. That's actually talking about a mixed multitude of 9 Israelites. Okay, you had Egyptians and whoever other foreigners that was amongst them. So go to Deuteronomy 23 in verse 3. All right. And it says, this is the law that was quoted in Nehemiah 13 and 3. And it says, and the Ammonite shall not enter into the congregation of Yahweh, even to the 10th generation shall not enter into the congregation of Yahweh forever, because they met you not with bread and with water in the way when ye came forth out of Egypt, because they hired against thee Baalam, the son of Beor, of Hathor of Mesopotamia, to curse thee. Nevertheless, Yahweh thy power would not hearken unto Baalam, but Yahweh thy power turned the curse into a blessing, because Yahweh thy power had loved thee. Thou shalt not seek their peace, nor their prosperity, all the days of thy life. Okay, so going into that law that Nehemiah was going into, that's where that law came from. But the point is, we were separated amongst from these heathens. Okay, we were separated. Okay, because during the mixed multitude being around Jake, the Lord still always had put a separation between us. Okay, and the reason why is because when we are mingling together like that, and Jake can get easily influenced by these heathen nations. Okay, so that's why the Lord gave us laws on how to deal with these nations, these heathen nations. Okay, these heathen nations had laws they had to live by under us, and we had laws that we had to live by as well. Okay, and one of them was not following after the ways of the heathen. Okay, because their ways lead unto death. All right, so let's get that in the book of Numbers. I believe it's 11 and 4, and it says, and the mixed multitude that was among them fell lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? Right. So when you go into this, it says the ramble, basically talking about those that follow Israel from Egypt, basically talking about who? Those of that mixed multitude. Okay. So let's go into the blue letter. All right. Numbers 11. All right. And 4. All right. We're going to get this in the commentary here. Let's see what it says. Okay. Mixed multitude in verse 4. It says, now the mixed multitude who were among them, says the mixed multitude went out of Egypt. This means that not everyone in the great crowd that came out of Egypt with Moses were ethnically Israelites. There were many Egyptians and perhaps other non-Israelites who went with them. This may be because they were also slaves in Egypt, and perhaps because Yahweh, the power of Israel, showed himself more powerful than their gods. We first read of the mixed multitude in Exodus 12 and 38, and the mixed multitude with them also, in the flocks and the herds, great deal of livestock. Statement in the Exodus shows that they were wealthy, having flocks and herds, even very much cattle. Perhaps they accounted for the willingness of the people of Yahweh to permit them to accompany them. Okay, says the fact that they have such possessions seems also to suggest that they were more than adventurers. They had certain interest in migration. One perhaps curiosity, perhaps that one thing that is certain is that they were not all theocracy and not having true part or a lot in the divine movement. They fell a lusting after the things of Egypt and affected the people of Yahweh with the same unholy desire. You see that? So through, the mixed multitude started having those thoughts, and Jake started murmuring too, man. That's why the Lord separated us from the mix. That's why there always been a separation, right? So, and it says we remembered the fish, and we did eat freely the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic, but now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes, and the manna was as coriander seed, and the color thereof of bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it and ground it in mills, or beat it in mortar and baked it in pans and made cakes of it. And the taste of it tastes as the taste of fresh oil. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. Then Moses heard the people weep throughout their families, and every man in the door of his tent. And the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly. And Moses also was displeased. And Moses said unto Yahweh, wherefore thou hast afflicted thy servant? Wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of this people upon me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them, that thou shouldest say unto me, carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father bearing the suckling child into the land, which thou swearest unto thy fathers? Whence should I have flesh to give unto these people? For they weep unto me, saying, give us flesh, that we may eat. I am not able to bear all this people alone, because it is too heavy for me. And if thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of my hand, if I have found favor in thy sight, and let me not see my wretchedness. Okay, so, and this is going to the I believe the quails, and then next the Lord ended up smoting them, smoting some of the people. Okay, so the mixed multitude that was amongst Jake right here is that same mixed multitude that came over from Egypt. Okay, and this consists of Egyptians or other foreigners. Okay, not the military of Israel. Okay, because when the mixed multitude started lusting, then the children of Israel started following after suit. Okay, and Jake going off because of that murmuring, saying that we better off in Egypt. So you got Numbers 15 and 15. I'm signing off. All right, and it reads. It says, one ordinance shall be both for you of the congregation, and also for the stranger that should joineth with you. An ordinance for you ever in your generations, as you are, so shall the stranger be before Yahweh. One law and one matter shall be for you and for the stranger that sojourneth with you. Right, and the actual stranger right here, is actually talking about, the actual non-Israelites. Okay. So it says right here in NLT, native-born Israelites and foreigners are equal before the Lord and is subject to the same decree. This permit law to you to be an observation for generation. The same instruction and regulation will apply both to you and to the foreigners live among you. MP. As for the assembly, there should be one and the same statute for you of the congregation, and for the stranger who is a resident alien with you, and a permanent statute throughout your generations. Okay, so as you see here, you know, there is a laws given to the actual Israelites, and there is laws given to the strangers. Okay, so the point is, you know, there was a mixed multitude amongst Jake, okay, which were actual heathens. Okay, so what Captain Zariak is saying, you know, that's talking about the military that was amongst it, that going off, man, going off. Okay, completely going off. Okay, so yeah, man. So Lord's willing, this is edifying to those who may watch, giving all praises and all honor and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Chakadash. Till next time, to next video, Shalom, Kwame Sharala, Abba Babal, Shalom.